My name is Craig Pera, the founder of the Mindful Habits System, and I want to welcome you to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. This is a podcast to help you create healthy sexuality. That has to be the destination, and a great life. That is, there's no success without that healthy sexuality and a great life. And I hope we can help you get there today. I have a very, very special guest with me today. Coach George is here. And I'm really excited to talk to George today. And I'm going to tell you why. Well, I'm always excited to talk to George. But in particular, George is a Christian. Now, my program is a secular program, and we take great pride working with men of all faiths and men of none. And there are specific, unique challenges to men of faith. And that's what I want to talk to George about today, regarding his journey and his struggles as a Christian man, confronting the sin of porn addiction. And you know, over the years, we've seen just the unique struggles that men in this community have. And I'm really excited, George, to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Craig. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Man, the challenges of being a Christian dealing with sex and porn addiction. We're blessed to be able to work with a lot of men who come from various faith groups and various faith-based backgrounds. And I'm glad to be able to share what I think is a prominent issue, particularly in faith-based communities, and to be more specific as a Christian. That's the faith that I adhere to. You know, I'm a Christian. Just so you guys know a little bit about me, just background-wise, my family I got into a weird melting pot. On my father's side, I am a third-generation addict. And on my mother's side, my grandfather was a bishop, my mother was a minister. So if anybody's familiar with that dynamic, you understand that you spend a lot of time in church, And I got to tell you guys that as in dealing with this process of it, you know, of just looking at my recovery, a hard part that I dealt with was actually coming to terms and bringing my faith to terms with what it was that I dealt with. You know, this behavior cost me a lot. You know, it cost me a lot. It cost me a marriage. It cost me healthy relationships with my children. It's jeopardized finances. It's jeopardized my own living situation at times. But at times I got to a space, even with my faith. I mean, if you're anything like me at all, I thought I exhausted every avenue when it comes to being a faith-based man, a Christian, and trying to battle porn and sex addiction. You know, I jokingly share, but it's so true that I joined probably a good 3 or 4 different churches, just looking for the men's ministry program, looking for the marriage ministry program, trying to find that one other voice that I could connect with. And unfortunately, that's not what I got. It's not what I got. What I got were people saying, hey, it's something that you got to work on. It's going to be okay. We're praying with you. We're working with you. And then when my wife left and it came out why she left because of my porn and sex addiction, I got to tell you guys, I felt completely abandoned. You know, it was a space where I didn't think I had any support, even coming from the church. But one thing that I had to learn, and just a small moment here on this, is that the religious institutions, for the better part, particularly Christian religious institutions, they have been heavily integral within the recovery process in a lot of other avenues. Like, you can go to almost any church and you're going to find an AA meeting. You're going to find an NA meeting. They aid in alcoholism. They aid in substance abuse. They aid in gambling addiction. They aid in if you're poor with your money, you name it. For the better part, the church has shown up to help. So the question says, well, how come the church hasn't shown up in a great way when it comes to sex and porn addiction? And I say great because, again, I'm sharing with you guys my story. I pray that you guys had a different experience, but if you didn't, this is my perspective of it. And I got to tell you, I went through the phases of it. I went through the phases of leaving the church. I went through the phases of saying, you know what? The church is just not where I need to be. Guys, there was a point in time when I said, I've just sinned way too much that God is done forgiving me. Like, I don't get any more second chances anymore. And honestly, I couldn't even be upset if that's what the decision was. Like with everything that I sacrificed, I lost the wife, I lost the family, I lost finances, and all that. Again, being a man of faith, I knew they were blessings that I received. I was blessed to have my children. I was blessed to have my wife. And then I did something that lost it all. Why should I be blessed again? That's literally where my mindset was. That's exactly where my mind was. But I got to tell you that
let me ask you
what I had to learn. I'm sorry, Craig, go ahead.
No, I just did you feel you said you felt abandoned when your wife left. Did you also feel abandoned by the church or dare I say God, and in that you were, there wasn't a place for you to say, hey, minister, hey, bishop, pastor, this is my struggle. Can you speak to that for a second?
Absolutely. And again, transparency here. Have I ever come out and said to anybody in the church in an initiated conversation way, hey, this is my struggle? That I didn't do. I can tell you I didn't do. Now, I can also tell you that I never heard anybody else in the church speak that way before, right? Like my father, recovering alcoholic. When I was young and in church, and it was my mom and my dad were together, going to church, that it was the most amount of sympathy and outpouring you would get. We understand what you're going through at home. We understand this and this, directing to this resource, directing to this resource. Guys, when it came to sex and porn addiction, there's a significant level of shame that I was dealing with in that space. And when others aren't talking about what you're shameful about, you find it hard to say, well, let me be the first one to jump into the shame pool and I'll splash around all the stuff that I'm dealing with to see if that connects to you. I had every side. To answer Craig's question more specifically, I probably touched on every other side conversation. I know I've definitely asked, hey, do any guys here have an affair? Has anybody here ever cheated on their wife? And I heard great colloquialisms. I'll be honest with you about that. One thing I got from those meetings, that I got great colloquialisms. I got great catchphrases that sounded good at the time. One in particular was, well, you got to be more committed to the marriage than you do your wife. Sounded great at the time. In hindsight, I knew
the platitudes. I
had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's what I learned about the church. And this is where I connect the dots to the mindful habit. And I'm glad you guys are listening right now, because as a Christian who went through the mindful habit program, and my faith is as strong as ever right now. When it comes to my own personal beliefs, it's as strong as ever. I internalize so much more. But in connecting the dots to it, though, what I realized about the church is that the church just didn't have the tools. It's a different set of tools that you need with what we deal with here with sex and porn addiction than what has worked in other more traditional avenues. Most churches just don't have the tools. Yeah. So when it came time, and I'm at that 9 hour, and it was June 27th to be exact, 2013, and I reached out and said, Craig, here's everything I got. I need the help. What I then realized was that the church wasn't necessarily faulty. The Bible wasn't faulty. It wasn't that my prayers didn't work. But if you're a Christian, you understand this line: faith without works is dead. And what I learned in the mindful habit was finally the right way to work. That was the empowering part about it for me. Like, I didn't have to walk around anymore and say that I'm just going through the trials of Job. As a Christian, you've heard that story before. Like, no, I'm having everything taken away because I'm just being tested right now. Or maybe you were closer to being on the path of David. I always loved that one as a Christian. David is a guy that we know him for two big things primarily in the Bible, right? He's the guy that God says that is a man after my own heart. And he's also the man that went and had an affair. Like in the very next breath. Like one book, man after my own heart. Next book, he's having an affair with a woman that he was oogling and objectifying from his palace looking down. So again, when I heard that, I said, well, okay, this is my safety net. I'm just like David. I'm just like this, right? Men, women, partners, husbands, wives, whoever's watching this right now. This isn't about you having to follow and be what you have actually read. This isn't about you saying, I got to now go through this period of my life, and this is where my toil is going to be and where my strife is going to be. This isn't about you coming here saying that I have to absolve myself of what I've learned with my faith so that I can enter into recovery. This is about you understanding your recovery, where you have it, however it is for you, whatever that looks like for you. And then being able to say, here are the tools that now aid me, not just in my recovery, but also in my faith. The tools that you learn here in the mindful habit, and the reason why I'm such a advocate of the mindful habit, why am I not an advocate so much of necessarily some of these other faith-based groups? It's because of the tools that are here. It's simply because of the tools that are here. I can receive so much more, even faith-wise, because now I'm not living under a cloud of shame and guilt. Every time I step in the church, I crack open the Bible, or I have to look my partner in the eye. Men, that happened with the mindful habit. As much as I've prayed, as much as I've gone to church and been on bended knee, no pastor ever taught me how to be mindful. Not once. But guess what? Mindfulness is all throughout the Bible. No minister, no church leader ever told me about, listen, you have to be more aware of your thoughts than your actions. But guess what? Thought control and thought change is all throughout what? The Bible. I promise you, it's all there. I've taken the steps back. I've gone through, I've read it, and I was like, how did I miss this piece about my thoughts? Because I was so fixated on just trying to change my circumstances in the moment. And I just needed God to do something right there. I share this with you guys today because unfortunately, a lot of times, and this is the biggest hurdle that I personally endured in my own faith walk, was that I somehow expected that because of my prayers, something quote unquote miraculous was going to happen that would cause this monumental shift. A miracle in my life, man. Exactly. Like it would be that aha moment. Like it's the moment where you almost think you see Jesus coming out of the pearly gates and saying, I now will absolve you of all of these things. Man, I've been there. I was there when I got married. I said, this is the monumental thing that I've been blessed with. I'm no longer going to do this. It didn't happen. I was there. It was there when I moved and I said, God bless me with a home that I didn't deserve. Now's when I'm going to get my act together. And then I had my daughter and I was like, believe it or not, out of 3 kids, this is the one child I actually prayed for. I've always wanted my baby girl. And then I had her. And I said, this is what's going to be the shift for me. But that's not how this works. That's not how this works. I've been on the bended knee praying that God get rid of sports bras and yoga pants. God, make everybody a nun or make them Muslim so they walk around robed all day long. Guess what happened when I woke up?
No,
that's when I actually got to the space of saying that, you know what? I've messed up so much in my behavior. God has left me. Or guess what? That's proof that there's no God. Neither one of those is further from the truth. Neither one of those is further from the truth. What I learned in this process, man, was that I didn't get spiritually abandoned. I learned that there wasn't enough information where I went to get the information. What I learned through this program, man, in my own journey in recovery, is that I actually had a chance of discovering my own true purpose. Every change that's happened in the Bible of somebody that you read about, whatever name that sticks in your head, they have gone through the space where they had to have suffered some degree had to have their real purpose revealed. That happens in recovery. And then lastly, man, and again, we've heard this line before, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Most of us know that if you're struggling, if you're a Christian struggling, that's probably something that you're like, that's not me, because I know he's not ordering my steps, so I must not be a good man. What I'm doing is nothing of him right now. The reality is that the steps mean process. The steps don't mean results. The steps means a process, and that's what recovery is. That's what your faith walk is. It is a process. Your faith today is stronger, I would assume, than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Same thing with recovery. But guess what? In faith, you've encountered different things. Same thing happens in recovery. That's why the recovery is a process. My steps are a process to me being the good man that are ordered by the Lord, because I got to follow these steps every single day. And here at the Mindful Habit, you get the right steps. If you want to match your faith with real work, the Mindful Habit gives you the real work. If you want to start walking in the correct direction to resolve your addiction, the Mindful Habit provides that for you guys. I love to talk to you guys. I love to just share more with you guys about my own personal journey. I love to see you guys take action and get involved in our program so you can start seeing and connecting the dots for yourself about how my faith, I don't got to throw it away. I don't got to reevaluate. I don't got to question it because it hasn't given me the results I've wanted. You just never had the right tools to match the faith that you had. I look forward to talking to you guys. We're going to drop some information here below underneath the call here. So whether you're seeing this on YouTube or podcast, you'll see the email link there. Send me an email. Let's have a conversation. Set up some time. But if you're actually about action and you just needed to know that you'll get the right steps here to be able to match your faith, take action. Click the link below. Go ahead and be a part of our self-study program. Get your feet wet. Try us out. We won't fail you.
And that self-study program is run by George. Guys, the self-study is the wrong name for it because he runs a weekly webinar call. So you're able to get feedback, guidance, support on that process. What you just said is such a tough lesson, isn't it, George? To like self-care is a process. Forgiveness is a process. Mm-hmm. Love for self is a process. Your journey towards God in your faith is a process. And there, for most people, there's not that, like you talked about earlier, people waiting for this moment. If I pray harder, if I can just pray harder, I'll be blessed and all my problems will go away. For most of us, it doesn't work that way. For most of us,
I'll be honest with you. There is nobody that just simply prays harder and their problems go away. There isn't a single person where all they did for 1 week, they sat on bended knee and prayed. And by the end of the week, they either had a job, they had more money, or they were rid of their addiction. Prayer alone doesn't work. And guess what? That's still part of the Bible. That defeats a lot of the teachings you probably have heard even in church. Again, I come from, hey, look at me, right? I'm a Black man and I'm also a Baptist. So you can imagine kind of the whatever my Medea stereotype you want to imagine. I've seen it. I promise you. I've been a part of the sermons where it's the hoop, the hollering, and the praying and the praising. And Monday morning, I can't remember what the heck we was hooping and hollering and praising about. I've been a part of those meetings where they said, my brother, you're not praying enough. You're not praying with your full heart. I have there somewhere in Virginia, in my old home exists a hardwood floor with 2 dents in it from my kneecaps. I promise you I was in the floor that long praying. Prayer alone never works. It doesn't. Your prayers got to be matched by your tools. Your prayers got to be matched by your own faith in what you decide to pursue in. So if you do come into this program, this isn't the program that says, hey, I'm going to go here so now God can do the miraculous change. No, you're going to come here and you're going to work the tools as hard as you have your faith. You may have to step outside of your faith to say, well, maybe I had the kid gloves on when it came to my faith. You're going to come here and work. But that's part of your process. As Craig was saying, that's the process to spirituality. It's the process to almost every single person's faith if you adhere to a particular faith. And it is the absolute only process for you in recovery. There's steps, there's tools. And the mindful habit is quite frankly the only place I found where we outline them for you in such a systematic way that the only way it don't work is if you don't work.
Thank you, George. I absolutely love your perspective. When we have these kind of events, I remember when you were a client, and I remember how low you were, and I remember just being moved by what you said. I mean, I could feel it. It was a spiritual moment for me because I got a great eye for talent. And I know and I remember that moment, and you weren't ready then, but I just knew that there was something really special about you, and you're a beautiful man. I'm so blessed and honored that you're part of the team. I see you change lives every day. And if any of this resonated with you, please email george@themindfulhabit.com. If you're like, I've heard enough, I'm ready to test the waters and jump in, to our self-study program, which includes a weekly webinar with George every week. Every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, is an opportunity to connect with him, to get feedback from him, to get tools from him, to learn the process. The process. It's such a powerful concept, and it's so easy. It rolls off your lips, but when you finally get it, so powerful. So please email George at themindfulhabit.com if you're ready to jump in. Click that link. We're going to be doing more of these, George. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait till the next one, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. Love you, man.
Absolutely. Love you too, man. Thank you for the time today. Look forward to talking to you guys.